It's April 14th, 1912, a frigid night in the North Atlantic, 400 miles off the coast of Newfoundland. The RMS Titanic, the largest and most luxurious ship ever built, glides through the darkness, its lights blazing like a floating city. In the opulent first-class dining saloon, passengers like John Jacob Astor IV, one of America's richest men, sip champagne under crystal chandeliers. In steerage, immigrants like Swedish laborer Johan Svensson dream of new lives in America. On the bridge, Captain Edward Smith, a seasoned mariner, scans the horizon, confident in the ship's state-of-the-art design. The Titanic, owned by the White Star Line, is deemed unsinkable, a marvel of human ingenuity. But tonight, an iceberg looms in the ship's path, and a chain of human errors and hubris is about to unleash one of the deadliest peacetime maritime disasters in history. Welcome to Vestige Files, where we unearth the pivotal moments that shaped our world. This is the story of the Titanic, a tale of ambition, tragedy, and a wake-up call that reshaped maritime safety. To understand this catastrophe, we must rewind to the early 20th century, a time of boundless optimism and industrial might. The Edwardian era was defined by progress. Electricity lit cities, automobiles rumbled through streets, and ocean liners were the pinnacle of engineering. Britain, the world's leading maritime power, dominated transatlantic travel through companies like Cunard and White Star Line. Cunard's liners, Lusitania and Mauretania, held speed records, but White Star aimed for luxury and scale. In 1907, White Star's chairman, J. Bruce Ismay, and shipbuilder Harland and Wolff's Lord Peary conceived the Olympic-class liners, Olympic, Titanic, and Britannic, designed to outshine all rivals. The Titanic, launched in 1911, was their masterpiece. 882 feet long, 46,000 tons, with a double-bottom hull, 16 watertight compartments, and a capacity for 3,300 passengers and crew. The Titanic was a floating palace. First-class passengers enjoyed Turkish baths, a squash court, and a Parisian-style cafe, while second-class cabins rivaled first class on smaller ships. Steerage, though cramped, offered clean bunks and meals for immigrants seeking opportunity in America. The ship's safety features were cutting-edge. A wireless Marconi telegraph system, electric watertight doors, and lifeboats, though only 20, enough for 1,178 people, half the ship's capacity. Regulations, set by the British Board of Trade in 1894, hadn't kept pace with modern liners, requiring lifeboats for only 1,060 on a ship like Titanic. Designers and operators, confident in the ship's watertight compartments, believed it could stay afloat even with 4 compartments flooded. Unsinkable, a term coined by the press, became the ship's mantra, lulling crew and passengers into complacency. The Titanic's maiden voyage began on April 10, 1912, from Southampton, England, bound for New York City via Cherbourg, France, and Queenstown, Ireland. Aboard were 2,224 people, 325 first-class passengers, including tycoons like Astor and Benjamin Guggenheim, 285 second-class passengers, like schoolteacher Lawrence Beasley, 706 steerage passengers, mostly Irish, Scandinavian, and Eastern European immigrants, and 908 crew members, from stokers to stewardesses. Captain Smith, 62, was a White Star veteran, respected for his calm demeanor but nearing retirement. J. Bruce Ismay, also aboard, was rumored to push for speed to break Cunard's records, though no direct evidence confirms this. The ship's wireless operators, Jack Phillips and Harold Bride, worked tirelessly, relaying passenger messages and ice warnings from other ships. The early voyage was flawless. The Titanic steamed at 22 knots, 25 miles per hour, its triple-screw propellers driven by 29 coal-fired boilers. Passengers marveled at the ship's grandeur, while crew members like Lookout Frederick Fleet and First Officer William Murdoch maintained a steady routine. But the North Atlantic in April was treacherous, littered with icebergs from Greenland's melting glaciers. Ships like the Californian and Masaba sent warnings of ice fields, but Titanic's wireless operators, swamped with commercial telegrams, dismissed them as routine. The stage was set for disaster, driven by a mix of technological pride, outdated regulations, and a failure to heed warnings. On April 14, 1912, the Titanic entered an ice field. The day was clear, the sea calm, an illusion of safety. By evening, temperatures plummeted, and the moonless night turned pitch black. At 10 p.m., Captain Smith ordered a slight course adjustment southward, but maintained speed at 22 knots, standard for liners despite ice warnings. In the crow's nest, lookouts Fleet and Reginald Lee scanned the horizon without binoculars, which had been misplaced in Southampton. At 11:40 p.m., Fleet spotted a dark mass ahead and rang the warning bell, shouting, "Iceberg, right ahead." First Officer Murdoch ordered the engine stopped and the helm turned hard to starboard, but it was too late. The iceberg scraped the Titanic's starboard side, buckling plates and popping rivets below the waterline. The collision, lasting seconds, was subtle. Many passengers felt only a shudder, but it breached 6 watertight compartments, one more than the ship could survive. Below decks, water poured in at 7 tons per second. Stokers like Frederick Barrett scrambled to seal compartments, but the damage was catastrophic. By midnight, Captain Smith and Thomas Andrews, the ship's designer, inspected the damage. Andrews, who knew the Titanic's design intimately, calculated it would sink in 2 hours. Smith ordered the lifeboats uncovered and the wireless operators to send distress signals. Phillips and Bride tapped out CQD and the new SOS, reaching ships like the Carpathia, 58 miles away, which raced toward the Titanic at 17 knots. Panic crept in as the crew struggled to organize. Lifeboats designed to hold 65 people were launched half full due to confusion and a belief the ship wouldn't sink. At 12:25 a.m., Lifeboat 7, carrying only 28 people, was lowered, mostly with first-class passengers like Margaret Brown, later dubbed the Unsinkable Molly Brown. The women and children first policy was unevenly enforced. Some boats allowed men, others didn't. In first class, passengers like Ida Strauss refused to leave her husband, Isidore, choosing to die together. In steerage, locked gates and language barriers trapped many below decks, including families like the Sages, who lost all 11 members. The ship's tilt grew steeper, its bow dipping as water flooded forward compartments. By 1 a.m., the grand staircase was underwater, and the orchestra, led by bandmaster Wallace Hartley, played hymns like "Nearer, My God, to Thee" to calm the crowd. Flares lit the sky, but the Californian, only 10 miles away, didn't respond. Its wireless operator was off duty, and its crew mistook the flares for fireworks. Passengers and crew faced impossible choices: board a lifeboat, risk the freezing water, or cling to the sinking ship. J. Bruce Ismay, criticized later for cowardice, boarded a collapsible lifeboat, while Captain Smith stayed on the bridge. His final words reportedly, "Well, boys, do your best for the women and children, and look out for yourselves." By 2 a.m., the last lifeboats were launched. The Titanic's stern rose, its lights flickering as power failed. At 2:20 a.m., the ship broke in two, the bow sinking first, dragging 1,500 people into 28 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 2 degrees Celsius water, where most died of hypothermia within 15 minutes. The stern followed, spiraling to the ocean floor, 12,500 feet below. Screams filled the air, then faded into silence. In the lifeboats, survivors like second-class passenger Charlotte Collier huddled under blankets, haunted by the cries they couldn't answer. The Carpathia arrived at 4 a.m., rescuing 705 survivors from lifeboats. Captain Arthur Rostron, hailed as a hero, turned his ship into a hospital, offering blankets, food, and medical care. Survivors like Eva Hart, a 7-year-old steerage passenger, recalled the horror of watching the Titanic vanish, her mother clinging to her in a lifeboat. The Carpathia reached New York on April 18th, met by 30,000 mourners and frantic families. Of the 2,224 aboard, 1,517 perished, including 68% of first-class men, 81% of second-class passengers, and 75% of steerage. The crew fared worst. Only 23% survived, with heroes like Hartley and Stoker John Priest, who saved others before drowning, becoming legends. The disaster shocked the world. Newspapers from the New York Times to the London Times ran headlines of disbelief, blaming hubris and poor planning. The Titanic's sinking exposed flaws in maritime safety. Too few lifeboats, ignored ice warnings, and inadequate crew training. Inquiries in the U.S. and Britain, led by Senator William Alden Smith and Lord Mersey, respectively, revealed systemic failures. The U.S. inquiry criticized Captain Smith's speed and the Californians' inaction, while the British inquiry faulted outdated regulations. J. Bruce Ismay faced public scorn, branded a villain for surviving while women and children died, though he was cleared of wrongdoing. The human cost was staggering. Families like the Goodwins, steerage passengers from England, lost all 8 members. In first class, widows like Madeline Astor inherited fortunes but grieved husbands. In steerage, communities like the Irish village of Adergool lost 11 of 14 emigrants, their wakes held in empty cottages. Survivors faced trauma. Eva Hart never slept without a light, haunted by the dark Atlantic. Yet acts of courage shone through. Wireless operator Harold Bride, despite frostbitten feet, relayed survivor names to shore. Margaret Brown raised funds for steerage survivors, many of whom arrived penniless in New York. The Titanic's legacy transformed maritime safety. The 1914 International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, SOLAS, mandated lifeboats for all, 24-hour wireless monitoring, and the International Ice Patrol to monitor icebergs. Ship designs improved, with double hulls and higher watertight bulkheads. The disaster humbled an era, shattering the myth of technological invincibility. It inspired cultural shifts. Films, books, and songs immortalized the tragedy, from 1912's The Wreck of the Titanic to James Cameron's 1997 blockbuster. The Wreck, discovered in 1985 by Robert Ballard at 41 degrees, 43 minutes north, 49 degrees, 56 minutes west, became a time capsule. Its artifacts like shoes and champagne bottles telling stories of loss. The Titanic's sinking was a tragedy of errors, overconfidence, inadequate lifeboats, and ignored warnings. It exposed class divides, with steerage passengers dying at higher rates, and challenged the era's faith in progress. Was the disaster a preventable accident, or an inevitable clash of nature and human ambition? Could better leadership have saved more lives? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this journey into the Titanic's fateful night moved you, hit that like button, subscribe to Vestige Files, and ring the bell for more stories of history's turning points.